Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 2nd, Monday edition of the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, and Cemetery Commissioners meeting. First, I have a disclosure to read. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 20, and the Governor's executive orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, although a quorum of the members of the Dudley Board of Selectmen will be physically present for this meeting, no in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. The meeting will be live broadcast on Dudley Cable Access Television, Channel 192, and members of the public can also access the rebroadcast of the meeting online by YouTube. In the event of an unanticipated interruption in this broadcast, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Members of the public who wish to appear before the Board of Selectmen must make an appointment to appear on an upcoming agenda by contacting Michelle Jervis at selectmen@dudleyma.gov or by calling Michelle at 508-949-8001. Placement on the agenda is not guaranteed, however, and persons requesting to appear before the Board of Selectmen should not attend a meeting in person unless and until the appointment has been confirmed by the Board of Selectmen. Persons with matters appearing on a meeting agenda may request that they attend by virtual means, such as conference call, rather than in-person attendance. Such a request should be directed to Michelle Jervis at selectmen@dudleyma.gov or by calling Michelle at 508-949-8001 no more than three business days in advance so that appropriate arrangements can be made. However, persons or representatives with matters appearing on the meeting notice/agenda who wish to be physically present at the meeting must observe the following requirements. In accordance with existing requirements imposed by the Governor, meeting rooms will be limited in terms of the total number of persons that may be physically present at the same time, including board/committee members and staff. Satellite rooms will be available for overflow, and the meeting will be broadcast in real time in those satellite rooms. Persons who wish to participate in any particular matter on the meeting agenda will be asked to wait in the satellite room until that agenda item is reached, at which point attendees will be rotated between the main meeting room and the satellite rooms as appropriate. Social distancing must be maintained in both the main meeting room and in satellite rooms. Face masks or coverings will be required in accordance with Governor Baker's May 1st, 2020 COVID-19 Order Number 31, order requiring face coverings in public places where social distancing is not possible. A copy of that order can be found at https://www.mass.gov May 1, 2020 masks and face covering/download. Failure to comply with these requirements may lead to an attendee's removal from the meeting. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Sullivan.
I would like to ask for a moment of silence for the over 160,000 cases of COVID-19 in Massachusetts and the over 10,000 deaths that we have experienced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Tonight we will be going through the second round of interviews for the highway superintendent position, and the first individual is Jeffrey Murray.
Go get him.
How do we get him? Good evening, Mr. Murray. How are we this evening?
Good evening. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. So this is the second round of interviews? Yes. And we have to vote. Yes. We have to vote in Mr. Johnson's participating remotely. We have to vote to allow him to be a part of the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I so move that
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, roll call vote.
John Marcy, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Gary Siganovich, aye. Welcome, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So we have Selectman Johnson's participating remotely. So for we're each going to ask questions kind of in a roundtable format. We're going to try and learn a little more about you.
Okay.
Dig a little deeper into your experiences, your thought process, and what have you. And feel free, towards the end, you'll be able to ask us more questions if you so desire. I'd like to start off with, if you were to get this position and start with us, what would your first 30 days look like? What would you look to do in your first month on the job?
Well, I guess my first 30 days, I would be looking towards leaning on the town administrator as the day-to-day leader for the town. And I guess as well, I understand that the selectmen are the highway commissioners, is that correct?
Yes.
So I would first like to get a little insight as to whether there's any ongoing projects, any ongoing problems, or areas that the town see, and especially, you know, either the selectmen as the commissioners, or the town administrator to look towards any areas of concerns or need, so that I could address those issues. Also, I'd like to get a little better insight as to what the existing operations have been with the town, how that system's been comprised. Get to introduce myself to all the departments that are involved that I would be interacting with, and gain some understanding as to what the expectation would be for the position, and how it's been executed at this time with the existing superintendent.
Thank you.
Okay. I know it's a little difficult sometimes with the masks to hear, and so.
We can't hear you well. That means you're wearing an excellent mask. We'll go with that.
Okay. Yes. So again, I mean, I'd like to learn the town system, and get a little bit better insight as to what's being done now, and I'd like to take a look at, you know, any improvements or changes that I would view as maybe being necessary, and then of course taking a look at that with the town administrator or the selectmen, and gain some insight from them. I'm not satisfied with taking a look at something and saying this is what's being done because just because that's the way we've always done things, and you know, and wouldn't necessarily be looking to go rogue, but would like to look at, you know, possible refinements, and throw that around between the any of the departments that were involved, and again, see where there was need for improvement.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, Mr. Murray, thank you for making yourself available for a second interview. Just based on your resume, you, out of all the candidates, were uniquely qualified in as much that you have experience, the practical experience that we're looking for. You have the licenses, you have a lot of years' experience, but you have municipal leadership experience.
Correct.
Can you touch a little bit on that, how you think that skill set will help adapt to this position?
So my experience as a selectman, or any of the municipal boards or commissions that I've been involved on, will give me a little bit of a background and a better understanding as far as you know, municipal budgeting, the execution of grants. I haven't, although one of the questions that I was asked at the past interview was whether or not I had been involved in the pursuit of any grants. I haven't personally done that, but I'm familiar with the process and been involved with the implementation after the grants have been received, and I would definitely be something that I would be capable of doing. The other things that I've learned is, how a lot of the ways that the funding comes about. I live in a town that has a similar governmental structure, and have the experience with all the accounting, any of the operations. I've had experience with bargaining units, sitting in on negotiations from the administrative side of the, and even with oversight with, when I was a selectman, we would have a representative from the Board of Selectmen that sat in, and even on the school department negotiations, so, or any of the collective bargaining units, the highway department. So I'm completely familiar with that operation from that end. And then with respect to personnel-related issues with bylaw or union employees, any of the negotiations that have gone on and taken place with that. I was on the personnel review board in my town for about just short of 5 years. The committee was disbanded when we went through a charter change. So one of the other things that I was involved in was the charter review committee in my town, and I understand after looking into the history of Dudley's pains and strains with an attempt to create a DPW, kind of familiar with that process and have a little bit of an understanding why people or town residents may be somewhat resistant to that, and I think I could lend some assistance with the management of the department such as it is right now, but looking forward in the future that making some improvements short of change to the charter or the having a DPW system.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes, you may, certainly.
Once again, Mr. Murray, based on your resume, you expressed in there you have appeared like a lot of technical skill. How would you assimilate those abilities, do you think, into this position? I know you haven't done it, but you read the job description, because your superintendent does a lot of the paperwork, doesn't have a full-time admin assistant. We're trying to give him some part-time help down there, but how would your other skills also help you in this role?
And I'm going to ask if you can even speak loud. He's having a hard time hearing you, actually.
Okay.
And
So,
don't worry about being too loud.
Yeah.
okay. You're asking about practical skills, or?
You listed your computer skills, different software you're familiar with, things like that. How would you use those skills, excuse me, also in the job?
Well, I think those skills would be used as they typically would be in my past roles to make refinements to record keeping, and it makes it a little bit easier as far as communications between any of the departments that I'd be involved with, or any of the individuals, even town administrator, the selectmen, boards, commissions, or again, departments. So, I think I would probably be able to create a system so that if there isn't an administrative assistant, I would be capable of managing those duties on my own. Again, I'm familiar with any of the Microsoft Office suite applications and those uses. Now, as far as the overall budget for the highway department, is that, I understand there's some other, the cemetery parks, do those all fall under the highways from a budget standpoint? Or those show up as separate line items on town meeting warrant?
The highway has control over them from a budget standpoint. They're separated out, but the superintendent has.
But they all fall under the,
Correct.
okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, certainly. Mr. Marcy?
I was going to talk more about the last question with Mr. Sullivan that just said about, like a lot of places like have a greater support staff. We don't. We'll perhaps have like some admin help, but talk a little bit more about conflict management, like between things that could come up on a job in a department like this, and how you would handle it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. How about if I switch positions with the candidate? I think everybody will hear him better. Mr. Johnson will be able to
Okay.
hear him better, and
Sure.
He's having a problem hearing me on the
Yeah,
phone?
he's on the-
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, it's just difficult.
And if he's having difficulty, the folks at home probably are as well.
Thank you.
Anything for you, Mr. Johnson?
Mm-hmm.
Anything.
Isn't that a song?
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Okay, let's try this.
Okay. So as far as,
Conflict
are
management.
you able to hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. As far as
Great.
any type of dispute resolutions that we're talking about, so are we talking about maybe a disagreement
Well,
between?
disagreement. Think of it from the lens of people are used to doing things a certain way, and you might bring a fresher or a different point of view, and that could cause conflict with the way things are done. How would you handle that?
Well, in my own business or the different roles that I've been in as a project manager, obviously, not everybody always agrees about the way things are done. I think I have a pretty good management style where I'll listen to somebody, let them present their view, try and diffuse a situation, certainly utilize any of the tools that would be available as far as, if there's something that's over the top, out of hand, where there's a discipline issue that would be necessary. Certainly, good record keeping has to happen as far as that goes, with, as far as written warnings or any type of documentation, if the situation is serious enough for that. If it were just a matter of, a disagreement between a couple of individuals, or one of the employees maybe had a differing opinion from me and had a problem as far as the execution of doing something, I think I probably talked that over and work things out. And I think, there's usually a way to compromise on that type of thing. And short of that, it may be a situation where it would be necessary to seek some intervention and, possibly approach the town administrator to have a second or even third set of eyes to assist in trying to resolve a situation if it became that, if it got to that point.
Okay. No, thanks. Thanks for that.
You're good? Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. What does your first 60 days on the job look like?
Okay, so I guess I had a pretty similar question that was asked a little earlier on that you may have missed, but I'll be more than happy to answer that again. The question was initially first 30 days, but I guess the first 60 days would probably be very similar in that I would be doing a lot of fact-finding, hopefully introducing myself to other involved parties with departments, getting a better handle on any of the open issues that, or hot items. I'm sure resident complaints or issues pop up on a regular basis, which That seems to be the case a lot of times. I would like to kind of orient myself with anybody that I would be involved with on a regular basis, and get a better idea from the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen as the highway commissioners to get an understanding of any open items, expectations as far as things that have gone on in the past, and any refinements or areas for improvement. And I certainly think after, with the years of experience that I've had in different roles, that I could certainly lend some assistance with refinements to operations, and maybe put a different view on things, and certainly feel that out, and with the approvals of either the board or the town administrator, attempt to implement some of the improvements that I would view as possibly being necessary.
Thank you. Any follow-ups to that, Mr. Johnson?
When hiring leaders of people, I was asked a question, what's the difference between a leader and a manager, in your opinion?
The difference between a leader and a manager? So I think a leader leads people, teaches them, maybe implements education and training, or communicates that. A manager delegates and I guess encourages and motivates, basically. The leaders oftentimes are one and the same with managers, but I guess part of the difference falls in being able to effectively delegate authority.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Sullivan, do you have another?
No.
Mr. Marcy? No?
I'm good.
Time do we have? I'd like to ask one more. And this is a follow-up to my original question. I know you answered the first 30 days, then you answered the first 60 days. I want you to jump ahead to a year. At the 1 year point in this position, what would you consider a success? What do you want to have done in that 1 year?
I would say after a year, and again, in my past roles, particularly my most recent role, one of the requirements was on a monthly basis to report financial stability and progress and success on any project that I was responsible for, to the officers of the corporation that I worked for. Likewise, I would like to take a look at that on a month-by-month basis. With this type of role, on a yearly basis after the first year, I guess I would like to do that backwards look and see what goals and objectives were met, and what goals and objectives were actually there that may not be able to be met because of budget issues. Maybe take a closer look at how to resolve those issues if that were the case. My understanding is that, as with any municipality, a lot of times there are budget constraints that don't allow them to do the types of things that they want to do, and then possibly come up with a better plan or other mechanisms to incorporate that. And I guess the measure of success would be how many goals or objectives are able to be addressed and ticked off the list for successes or completions.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you have any other questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay, we're all good? We're all good? Thank you very much for coming by again.
Anything,
I'm sorry?
anything back?
Oh, sorry. Do you have any other questions for us?
I
Sorry, that slipped my mind.
That's all right.
I guess I don't have any questions at this time.
It's not a bad thing. Next steps?
Well, we're at the final step, so the next steps will be up to the Board of Selectmen.
Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. We've got 2 other interviews today, and away we go.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
And then the timeframe would be to be notified if,
Hopefully soon.
okay.
Hopefully soon.
All right, very
But
good.
hard to predict anything in this day and age.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
You know, mute in between, we're gonna bring the next guy right in.
Sorry?
We're gonna mute in between. Bring the next guy
What do you
right
mean? You want to stop the meeting, you mean?
in. Are we gonna just roll right into the next guy?
We've
or-
got a 7:10, I don't know if he's here yet.
He's there.
He's there.
around.
He-
Sorry,
oh, he's
this
been
is-
here
Might
since
keep rolling,
quarter
it's up to
7.
you guys.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. You want to go?
Go ahead.
I mean, I took notes.
No, I did too, I didn't know.
Yeah, I saw you. I've got a little peripheral vision, not much.
You gonna be asking the same question?
Yes, I'm
Good.
going to be.
You have to write them again.
I'm not going to tell anyone
I
else
took
what to
tons
do.
of notes the last time, so I just want to hear the follow-ups.
Because Mr. Johnson is on the conference call, so you can
Yeah, we're going to see how you look
Evening,
next to us
folks.
on television.
Sorry about the jacket here and
No worries.
chilly
It's
tonight.
that time of year. Well, welcome back. We thank you for taking the time to
Come
come.
back, Russ.
Thank you very much for having me for the second interview, folks.
And Mr. Johnson is participating remotely. He's on the little spider camera there.
Okay.
He'll be asking his question later. We're just going to jump right in if you're good with that.
Absolutely.
I want to ask, if you were to get this position and start working for us, what would your first 30 days on the job look like? What are you looking to do? What are your goals? What are your objectives? What are you doing those first 30 days?
Day one, I introduce myself to everybody that I can possibly do. It's public relations. And I'm gonna go about, and I'm gonna go to the administrator, the town manager, and ask them what would they like me to do as far as introducing myself, first in town hall, or go out and about and talk to the gentlemen that are gonna work for me in the highway department. That would be number one. And then I would go down the list and into the priorities. It's very important to know who's working for you, a little bit of each one of them. Try and pick at them a little bit and get to know them on just a name basis, first of all, because it is difficult. Names, you hear so many names these days, it's not like the older days, and you try and pick their name out. So if you can remember somebody's names, it's very important. They respect that right off the bat, and like I said, go down the list, and whether or not it's relating to businesses that deal with the town, or contractors that deal with the town, or vendors that deal with the town, go right down the list. My name is Russ Gilio. I work for this town of Dudley here, and I would like to introduce myself and get on a get-to-know basis as far as the names go, and associate them into my name schedule and whatnot, and making sure, like I said, number one priority is the town, dealing with the town manager and whatever his priorities are, whether or not it's people in town hall or the gentlemen that work for me. I really would like to talk to the gentlemen that work for me, because that's very important, that's key, you know? And in this day and age, you know, if you don't have a relationship with the people that work with you, it's not gonna work, whether or not it's a good one or a bad one. You know, it's how you go about and how you introduce yourself and how you talk to them. You know, it's just, you gotta feel them out a little bit. It's not not something you just go in there and just, hi, my name's Russ Gilio, and walk away, because that's not a good impression on anybody, you know? I'd like to talk to them a little bit, whether it's 10 minutes or whatever it is. You know, how are you? My name is Russ Gilio. You know, your name is, and go down the list. And hopefully I remember everybody's name on a get-to-know basis. I mean, it's kind of tough working with 32 guys underneath me and trying to remember all their names and all their family members' names, and, you know, because sometimes you have little get-togethers and they bring their families. It's important to have a little relationship, not a very good relationship where it's, you know, their whole family, but just the immediate family, you know, the husband and the wife and maybe 1 or 2 children, and that's important. You know, it goes a long way. You say hi to them and it carries on.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Sigenovich. Mr. Gilio, thank you for making yourself available for a second interview. We appreciate you coming in. So based on your resume and your first interview, you have a enormous wealth of experience, hands-on, what it takes to get the job done, attitude, and your demonstrated knowledge. How would you translate your experience to this point as you transition into the role of the superintendent?
Like I said, it's important to get to know everybody. That includes all the vendors and whatnot. I mean, you have to know them, you have to feel them out a little bit, and that's important. That really is important. I mean, you're gonna start over regardless. You still gotta get to know everybody on that point. Whether or not it's on a good term or a bad term, but to the point, you know, you have to let them know that you're in charge and go about that, and that's it. If I'm talked to and not treated fairly, call for a reprimand. You know, it's not something that's your job. You're a supervisor.
So what about more like technical or hands-on type stuff? Like I said, you have an enormous wealth of experience of actually doing highway DPW type work. We don't have a DPW, but how would that fit as superintendent? Like, if, you know, scenario, you roll up on a job site and the guys are rebuilding a culvert and you don't think they're doing it right, how, you know, something like that. How would that work with your experience to correct someone or to direct them to complete a task?
Well, first of all, when you rebuild a culvert or whatever you're rebuilding, if you're not doing it the right way, they know it off the bat. I mean, it's something that they're supposed to be doing. If I'm going to change them doing it, I'm going to say, oh, that's a good way to do it. But in other terms, there's also another way you can do it. Make it a little easier on yourself if you want to try it a different way. There are different ways to do structures in culverts. So not all of it is one specific way. If you're familiar with a culvert, it can be any style and it can be any shape or form. I mean, the pipes are different, everything like that. The riprap on the side, on the outflow. If they're not doing it right, and I know they're not doing it right, I'm gonna say to them, do you think that really is gonna work? This is my job that's on the line, and I don't feel that would work. I would let them know. Do you think there's another way to do that? That's another question I would have for them. It's not, if I'm putting my job out there for a risk, I'm gonna tell them right off the bat, I don't feel comfortable with that, the way you're doing that structure. Could you just do it the way I feel like doing it? And if they were gonna do a structure at the beginning of it, I would ask them what they plan on doing. They wouldn't just go out there and just start a structure.
Right, don't take a bunch of blocks and go.
No, right, exactly what you do. Whether or not it's starting off at the base, where you start off with putting on crushed stone, or you're putting on processed gravel, there's all different ways to do it. You kind of put me in a spot on how they build a structure, and if whether or not I feel safe with them doing it. The chances are, how long have these gentlemen worked for the the town of Dudley. I mean, if they don't know how to do a structure, if they've been there 5 years, I don't think that's their job. They can't do that. They'll be better off weed whacking the side of the road or cutting poison ivy somewhere, you know what I mean? We can work it out the right way, or we can do it a different way.
All right, then the second, Mr. Chair,
Yes, certainly.
second part, again, based on your resume and your answers at the last meeting, your new role in Lincoln is Assistant Superintendent, right?
Correct.
So you've never been the ultimate decision maker on a permanent basis. I'm not saying day to day, you didn't have to do things. How would your experience in your most recent role, which I think was about a year and a half, you said, 2019?
1 year. October of last year, I started it.
Just over a year. How would you see yourself, or how would you transition from having a chain of command to basically, I mean, you'd report to the administrator on a pinch, but how would you transition to being the final say?
Okay,
Similar to what you just touched on, though, actually, but
right, like I said, it's very important when you get into a spot like that, like, the boss that I have now, the supervisor, goes on vacation for 2 weeks. I make all the calls. So I've done that twice already, and I haven't had an issue with it. It's just how it goes. 7 o'clock comes, you're out the door with a job. That's how it goes. It's plain and simple. If there's any questions, you ask me. Anything to do with public relations, I'm there for it. I'm answering the phone till 7:30, documenting the Vita route on the fuels, everything that needs to be done when it comes for the town as far as the highway garage goes. And at that point, 7:30, the answer machine's turned on, I go out and about. There's certain jobs that have to be completed by the end of the day. The guys know that they have to complete them. They rebuild a structure, a simple structure. It's only 1 course of blocks, and do the ring row at the top and set the flange, the grates. They'll put the mortar on it, barrel it up, cones it up, and it's done for the day, and tomorrow's the asphalt. But now, there's different ways. Now they have an asphalt that you can do it the same day. You just add water to it, and it turns into an asphalt from concrete. So regardless of what your plan's on, as far as taking over and being a supervisor, if tomorrow they said, Bill left the position, would you be willing to take the position? Absolutely. My objective in life is to move up. It's to help. If I can help a town, a city, a town, I'm going to help them. If I can better them, I'll try my best, and I'll give it all I have. Like I said, whoever is the town administrator, town manager, will let me know if there's something that we don't participate in, a job or something like that, that I'm always there. I mean, my phone will ring in the middle. My kids are all grown up, so it's not an issue with that. You call me in the middle of the night, you got a problem, I'm there. You know what I mean? My lights are on, and like I said, I turn the lights on in the garage for anybody, and I'm willing to go out and help people, and that's my job.
And then, Mr. Chair, one,
Certainly, Mr.
I'm sure you did some research on the position, because you had some excellent questions last time. We do not have full-time administrative help with this position. We're working on it where you may get some part-time help. How about the technical aspects? You have experience with Lincoln on payroll, submitting invoice. I know you said you'd have a purchasing agent in town. What we have is a chief procurement officer who's the town administrator. You would work with him, obviously, on expenditures. We have a capital improvement committee for big expenditures, 5-year plan, 10-year plan. How about day-to-day or weekly administrative tasks? Are you getting that at Lincoln?
That's the issue, that if you wanted me to ask you any questions, that would be one of the questions that it would be as far as administrator goes or secretary goes. Sometimes places like to have, we don't have a secretary. I do all the public relations myself. The supervisor goes out and does the jobs. He looks over all the jobs and making sure they're doing their jobs that they were given at the beginning of the day. What I'll do is, if he's not there, I take up that role, I'll go around, look at that, I'll do all the paperwork. What we do is we send in the payroll on Monday morning, we go by the timesheet, fill out all their overtime, whatever it is, depending on if they had overtime or whatnot, we all submit it. We have a payroll department in the town. I don't know if the town of Dudley has the payroll department, or I specifically write out a check, which I don't feel comfortable, because keeping track of the hours, I'll have it. That's part of it. Filing cabinet, whether or not it's on paper, or it's a time card that they punch, or a finger punch, as long as we have records of it, we save that. That's important, documents. As far as writing out any kind of checks, I think that's responsibility of, after looking at it, it goes as far as, say you get a price on an asphalt job, they want to do a road, and it's going to cost, say it's going to cost $200,000 to do one road. So you're going to get 3 bids. You're going to put out the bid, and whoever's got the best bid and whoever's reliable enough, you want to check on, you know, you go after and you look at some of the work they've done. You don't want to just hire Joe Schmo off the street and see what he's done. I mean, you want to look overall and see his performance and what he's done for the other jobs and the other towns, and if he's a vendor for the town. That's another question that I would have for you. How many town vendors do you have? Do you have one specific for asphalt? Do you have one specific for sand and salt? And things like that, you know. I don't know how, every city and town is different. Some of them have specific vendors where they deal with, because we go on what they call the state budget, and what the state allows, and so much money that they can give or take a little bit here and there, but that's it. It's,
I mean, I'll defer to the town administrator, but generally, superintendent is responsible. Annually, we get bids for stone, sand, gravel. We generally superintendent.
Just so we don't go too far down the rabbit hole, you're not writing any checks.
Yeah.
okay,
So you don't have to worry about that.
You don't get a check.
I think what the question is I think the board's trying to understand how much of the administrative side of the role you can deal with. Payroll, bids, Chapter 90, which is the state-funded
Right.
amount that you can get for road repair,
Okay.
some certain qualifying equipment, that sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
Mr. Sullivan said, bids, who's going to be doing large tree removal, who's going to bid your materials, the whole nine. How much experience
well, I have
with
the,
operational finances, not so much writing checks, but doing payroll, doing bids, that sort of thing? How much experience do you
Right.
have
I
with
don't-
that?
as far as understanding who's in for the bid and who receives the bid, it's all dependent on what kind of a job you're gonna get. I mean, sometimes somebody will throw in a low bid, but then you look at their performance, what it looks like. Have I dealt with that? Yes. I've gone out and said to the my supervisor and said, listen, these guys are only putting down 1 inch asphalt. They're gonna have 1.5 inches. As far as that goes, my job is to look at their performance and what they're doing right now. Would I do that? Yes. Would I do as far as who's putting the bid in and whatnot? Absolutely. You know, who's putting up the price tag? You know, we're gonna pay somebody to do this. It's gonna be, you know, you're gonna get your money's worth at that point. You're not gonna, as far as touching anything to do with submitting the bids to the people and say, hey, give me a bid for this. You know, I call them up and say, send in the bids. I want 3 bids. You know, this guy, and this guy. There's our job. Here's what our expectations are, when the job's supposed to be done, completed by a certain day. Of course, you don't want to ever cut a road in November, because look at what happens. I mean, it can happen in October, but, I mean, we'll have a couple of days to recover, but other than that, you don't want to, I know as far as the monies go, sometimes, you know, the monies aren't granted to the cities and towns until November, but you got to wait, kind of put it on one of those priority lists again, you know, and stop fresh in the spring and hope you don't go over budget in the winter, because that can be costly also.
So following Mr. Chairman, through to Mr. Sullivan, the other part of your question, I think, was how he can follow a budget, right? So if you're given an annual budget by line item, do you have any experience keeping track of budgets?
I don't, like I said, I just go with what they allow. So my supervisor will say, this is what we have to allow these guys to do with the money. Your allowance is this much, and this is all you can spend. So if they can do it with that allowance, that's fine. If they can't, well, I'm gonna go to him and say, this is the Public Works Director that I deal with. Now, if my supervisor isn't there, I don't know if you have a Public Works Director, or you just go right, dealing with the town manager or the town administrator, as far as that goes, because I never put both of them together. It's just, I'm allowed so much money to spend, and if I can't spend that money that's allowed, they'll put it for next year's. You know what I'm saying on that point? They kind of budget it. If they put too much in and we don't use it, we don't spend it, it just rolls over into the fund for the town.
Well, the good thing here, Russ, you'll work closely with the administrator and the financial team crafting your budget.
Correct.
Annual budget. And if you're selected and you're doing the job, you can keep track of your own in conjunction with either the treasurer or our accountant. You can go in at any time, if you don't have that actual rec, and just say, what do I have today, and count line item, and you'll be able to get that number. So you'll be able to pick up pretty quick, because the numbers will be there. If you have 100,000 and one job takes 12, and you go into so much do I have left, they say 81, you can say, well, wait a minute, I had 88. So I just wanted to get a feel of general knowledge. So
Right.
I appreciate your answer. It was a good answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Marcy?
Yeah, like I said earlier, Jonathan pressed on where I was gonna go.
I'm very sorry. I'm sorry to, whatever the background noise is here, it sounds like a fan running or a furnace or
That
something.
was-
It's kind of hard to hear me.
That was
across.
repaired yesterday, as a matter of fact.
So, I just trying to, I don't know, maybe it's just the vent that's kind of,
That's right above
but
us.
I'm trying to listen.
That's okay, I'll
you're
speak
in
louder,
your
how about
spot.
that? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you
All right.
okay.
So I want to press a little bit more. I have two things, Mr. Chairman. One, to Jonathan's point and to Stephen's point, you be paired with the town administrator and the financial team to help put budgets. But tell me your comfort level about learning new things, because that would be something new to you.
It would definitely be something new. It's like I said, it's another step on the ladder. You know, I'm willing to listen to what anybody has to say. If they got opinions and I think they're good opinions, I'll listen to them. If I don't feel that way, I'll be upfront and honest and say, well, I don't agree, and I think maybe we should look at it a little more in a different manner and go from there. Other than that, I feel confident on it. It's not that I don't feel confident on it, and it's always good to talk about something if you're not sure. So, on that
Yep, no,
perspective,
yeah, I get it. So playing on that a little bit, how would you advocate? So the guys tell you, you know what, the loader died, or I'm just making something up. Advocating for some big project or a big piece of equipment or a job that you think needs to be done but might not be in the budget. How would you go about that?
well, whether or not it's the town that's looking for a piece of equipment, whether it's
For your
looking-
department.
What's that?
It would be for your department in this scenario.
Okay, so the highway department would be consecutive of looking around and pricing things out, see what you get, what do you get for your money? Whether or not it's a front-end loader, it's a backhoe, it's a small tractor, whether it's a sidearm mower deck for the side of the road, there's all different ways to look at that. You just have, like I said, it's we go by you have to have 3 bids, and you go with the bid that you think is the best, that fits that. If the other ones seem okay, but you look at some of the work and you ask, who else has that machine? You know, I want to go look at that machine. I want to see its performance. I want to look at the stats on it? Does it break down much? How much money does it cost them to maintain this machine? You know, things like this is key, and this is what would benefit a town like yourselves, because I'm coming up the ladder and I see everything from the perspective of the people working and operating the machines. Who's operating the machine? Is he a reliable person?
So,
That's-
can I, Mr. Chairman, follow up with Mr.
Certainly.
Marcy's question?
Certainly.
So, Russ, somebody comes, all of a sudden, a loader, in your estimation, is complete junk. Cannot be repaired, it's not worth the money to repair it. You don't have anything in your budget for a new, to replace the loader. How do you advocate to a citizen who says, you don't need it, I don't want my taxes to go up? Or selectmen who, and how do you advocate for them to spend that money or to get, or raise taxes, ask for a tax increase for that money, when they have different considerations, the public doesn't want it, and
Other
you're
departments
being
have
told no?
similar
How do you
asks.
advocate, how do you get your point across and say that loader is required? Is that
Okay,
what
so-
we're trying to get to?
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, so at that point, we would have to sit down, we'd have to have a meeting, try and come up with some emergency fund. If the machine is not running and you need to load up trucks, you're gonna hire an outside contractor to come in and do it? You're gonna need to load it regardless, whether it's this year or next year or the year after. Can we come up with a solution on that, which would be an emergency fund? Can we have a meeting? Can we discuss this amongst the public and let them know why? You know, this thing is in default. How old is this loader? Explain to them in detail, and you would get overall, probably still get some of the people that would say, no, you can't do it, we don't have the, so how are we gonna get the roads treated for the safe and well-being of all the town citizens? This is things you're gonna have to look at, you know, and, I mean, if some people don't see it, some people will see it. You have to be upfront and honest with people, and I'm hoping that you'll understand that part of it if I'm your candidate for the job.
Okay, thanks. One more, Mr. Chairman. So, conflict. So you say you get this role, you'd be coming in from another department, the way you touched on it earlier, but I wanted to expand on it. You might have your way of doing things, right? Whether it's, you know, how we assign jobs, how do we actually do the job, and things like that. What if, you know, you run into this is the way we do it here, and there's no other way to do it? How would you handle a situation like that with your team?
So I want to talk to the guy that's the senior man at the facility. And I say, hey, look, I'm paid to do a specific job. Here's what I have to do. I have to present myself to you, and I have to present myself to you. We got to work this out. This is going to have to work, because if it doesn't work, you're going to be in a catch-22, and it's, regardless of how you treat me, I'm still going to ask the town administrator, the selectmen, whoever it is, the town manager, what do they want? And at that point, that's when I pass on the word. Whether or not it's a good word or not, if they don't like it, there's more people out there that'll want the job. Telling you right now. You gotta be a little stern for yourself, but
Okay. No, that's what I wanted.
it's
that's
up
what I wanted
front,
to
the
hear.
hammer comes down, and that's how it goes. I mean, I would like to talk to the person first, get to know them a little bit. Sometimes you get the issues, or they haven't got a raise in this year, you know, the budget's not there, and I'm very upset. I'd like to ask a couple of questions, you know, regardless of this or regardless of that, and go about talking to the higher ups. You know, I'm willing, I'm free, my ears are always open, you know, I never turn them off for anybody. Whether it's good input or bad input, you know, if I don't like it, I just let them know.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, your question, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Great. Over the years, you've probably worked for a number of people. The other selectmen have gone into the technical aspects of the role. So over the years, you've worked for a number of people. What are some of the characteristics of the best leaders that you've worked for that you would emulate?
Okay. So you see in my resume, IDS, Highway Safety Systems Company, and we have to start off at the beginning of that job with talking over, going about, and listening to what they have to say. What do we got to do? We got to perform. We're working on 95 southbound in downtown Providence, things like that. It's important to understand what they're presenting to you, what we have to do, and go about that. That's just a part-time job. My full-time job is, of course, the assistant supervisor. So the characteristics of that job is kind of understanding what everybody has to say to you and going about and telling them this is what they expect, this is the expectations of that job. And it's kind of one of those things you have to let them know, and you have to be stern about yourself and let them know that they have to do one specific thing and carry that assignment out. If they don't like it, that's the road for you, you know. You have to follow the rules, you know, and if they don't like me, for some reason, you just let me know and I'll try and work with you, however it is. But as far as that goes, I think for the most part, the people understand who I am, and my job is to do the safety of everybody in the town of Dudley. And it's not just any specific person, you know. Certain things have to be done in the town that are on the priority list, I'm sure. That has to be addressed day one. Regardless, I don't know. I'm sure you guys, since the last storm, that was Friday, and hit us pretty good here, and I don't know how you feel and how were you ready for it and stuff like that. There's a couple of questions on that one, but as far as that goes, our town only had 2 Sanders ready and available for that, which we need 4 anyways, and so there was a little, had it back against the wall for a couple hours, but as far as that goes, it got done. I mean, overall. Did I answer your question okay, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Excellent.
You good?
Are you good, Mr. Johnson? Do you have any other questions?
Not at this time, no.
Mr. Marcy?
I'm good.
I got one random Rhode Island specific question. You ever been to Marquette's and do you like it?
Oh,
Cranston?
I'll tell you what, if you like a lobster roll, that's the place you want to go. Because there's more lobster on that plate for 3 sandwiches. I don't know how they put it onto 1, but it was well worth the money.
All right, just a typical random question.
That's on Park Ave in Cranston.
Yep, great restaurant.
New York System on Plainfield Street, Providence.
Take a trip if you've never been there, just,
I've been,
okay,
I enjoy it. I've been too much. I've got one last question for you.
shoot, go.
You answered the question well about what would the first 30 days look like. Fast forward to a year. You've been in the job for a year. What would be your definition of success at 1 year? Tell me some things. Tell me some things that, in your mind, you would be successful. You would be successful at the position in your mind at the 1 year mark if you've had these things done, or these things happened, or these things didn't happen.
Again, sir, what I would do is I would start off with day 1 with a priority list. And that's what I would go by. I would go with that priority list. What do you expect in a year? I'm just gonna go about and make sure that gets
So that
addressed.
priority list will change as the year goes on.
right. Things are gonna get addressed. I mean, whether or not it jumps from the priority 1 to priority 5 now, because now we got a road collapse, and we got trees overhang, and we had an ice storm. What are we gonna, how are we gonna do that? How are we gonna present ourselves in the budget to the town? You know, you have ice storms, it can be devastating. You can have a tornado. Anything could change in a swing of a bat, but like I said, I would do a priority list from day 1, and that's how it would go. I would go by that priority list. What does the administration want? What does the town manager want? What does the town want? Is there certain things that the town of Dudley want right now? Are they looking to do any specific major projects? Is there a lot of building going on? Is so forth, you know? Because some of the areas you're dealing with the EPA and stuff like that, you want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. They're putting up silt fence when they're doing a big development in the town. You know, that it's close to the French River that's down the road. You got to be careful, because now you're disturbing the ground, you're raising flags, people, certain things that the priority is, can vary. I mean, however you want to look at it, and it just be addressed in that manner.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Sullivan? I'm good. Mr. Marcy? Mr. Johnson, anything else?
No, not this time.
There's a little bit of a pause. It's
Yeah, that's okay. I can hear him clearer
like
than
CNN in the
weekend with the
90s.
mask.
It's
I'm
fine.
sorry to say it.
Do you have any questions for us?
I have a couple questions,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind me.
No, you've got a notebook and a binder?
First
or
of
where
all,
go?
you asked for a reference, Michelle.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you received it on an email or not, but
Oh, appreciate it, thank you.
there are them.
Excellent.
Sure. And feel free, if you want to call Charlie or Adam or Peter. He was a town employee that went to the state, one of the very good workers that we had, no room for advancement, and he moved on. As far as Adam goes, he's the operating manager for the IDS. His wife owns the company. This is out of Cumberland. As far as that goes, and Charlie is who I work with part-time when I used to get out, when I done the rubbish. 10 years ago, I used to get out at 2 o'clock. That was the incentive. Work through your lunch, work through your breaks, and you would finish early. I used to have to go to the landfill. You're familiar with that. You have to dump at the landfill, safe manner, come back, and you were able to leave at 2 o'clock. I would work with Charlie, and that's my references there. So I called them up and I let them know that if they got a phone call, that I applied for a position in that manner. Okay, so sorry to switch tracks, and if you needed me to live in the town, how long would I have to move before I got into the town? Whether or not it was required.
4 hours.
Well, it'd take me a little longer than that to pack up my bags and move to my son's house, but I could do it.
If we get to that point.
Just work through lunch and your breaks.
If we get, if we get to that point, you know, we'd talk about it.
Okay.
It wouldn't be something unreasonable, but
Okay. Is it required? That was my next question, to live in the town if you work in the town.
it's on a case-by-case for someone as a department head level,
Okay.
so.
Wasn't a published requirement of the job, though.
I just
No.
didn't want to raise any flags
No.
throughout the town,
No, you've been on it.
No.
That's
upfront and honest,
question.
right off the bat.
Yeah.
Another one was, one of my questions. So when you have a major storm, our town, after 10 hours, you get comp time from that point because it's a salary job, and I understand that. But after 10 hours of overtime, say you get an hour, you get a 20-hour storm, at that point, you get 10 hours overtime, you only get the comp time. You don't get any overtime until after 10 hours. Does the town, are they open for that? Are they open for the overtime after a certain amount of comp time, or don't they have that, or?
Again, that's something else we would have to discuss.
Okay,
That's not how it's structured right now. We used to have snow and ice accounts separate for the
Yep.
superintendents. Now, we've since rolled that into the salary, because if you have a light winter, you don't get the money. Or if you have a heavy winter, you get the whole, now we've just rolled it in as being part of the salary, but things
okay.
like that are, that would be something else we could.
Like I said, these are a couple of questions I'd like to ask, and I had jotted them down as I was thinking about it. I'm saying to myself, boy, the day after I got the interview, I got the second call. That was great, but now I got to come up with a couple more questions, because you asked me questions the other night, and I didn't have them for you, and I was sorry, but I was thinking about it. And as far as the product, the sand and salt, has the town done an order of the sand and salt product, or just salt, or how do you apply this to the town? Do you get it in a lump sum at the beginning, or do you go as the town needs it down the road?
I don't believe they truck the entire amount in to begin with. I think they fill the salt shed. They probably wouldn't bring the entire amount at the beginning of the season. I know that we have stuff left over from last season, so it's not like you go and get it every day, but
No.
there's enough to get you certainly through, there's certainly enough to get you through storms.
Okay, I'm just trying to ask questions, because if the position came and all of a sudden I'm getting thrown, oh, you don't have this, you don't have that, and I'd like to order, make sure ahead of time that everything is in place.
We wouldn't just throw it. One of the things that we have been discussing for whoever the successful superintendent is, we're not going to put you in a position, if we can avoid it, where we just throw you the keys and say you're on your own. There's going to be a transition.
Okay. How soon would the town need a supervisor? Would it be as far as to let the town of Lincoln know? I would be fair and at least give them a 2 to 4 week notice. I mean, I'm throwing down on the table to them, you can accrue 150 days of sick time. I have that. I've given them back 150 days. I'm not one of those people that take sick time. So I'm just giving it back to them. And the same goes for vacation time. I get 6 weeks accrued over the 30 years, and how many weeks you think you take in a year? I don't take 6 weeks. It's not me, I'll take a day here and there. I'll take 2 weeks here and there, but after 4 weeks, that gets old, So I'm not one that wants to use the sick time and the vacation time, but it's just one of those questions that I wanted to throw out
Well,
there.
I think a lot of these questions, if we get to the point where we were extending an offer to you, we would have an opportunity to discuss it
With HR.
in a different setting than this.
Okay,
But certainly it'd be sooner rather than later. We're not
Yes,
looking, we're
yeah.
not looking for like January 1st by any stretch.
okay. It's just like I said, there was
Safe comment.
certain questions you have, because, hey,
And, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Certainly.
and I'm sure everyone feels the same, I think that's a great question, because we wouldn't want you to stiff Lincoln,
no.
because we could be in the same boat 2 years from now. If something would have happened somewhere else, we want you to stiff us, so that shows your character.
So like I said, as I got the job and I moved up last year, you have a responsibility, and it's to work with everybody. You're working on both sides. It's not just one side. And every person has two sides to them, regardless. You can have that town resident that says, the guy's at the coffee shop that long, Okay, I'll talk to them. I'll let them know how I feel. Please, can't be at the coffee shop that long. I've been getting complaints from the residents of town. It's simple as a couple of words, you get your coffee and move on. Could you just do me that favor? Thank you so much. It means a lot to me, Simple things, little words, goes a long way. And like I said, depending on if you choose me as a candidate, I will give 110% of my effort to you. So,
Do you have any other questions for us?
no, that's it, sir.
Kind of enjoyed talking to you. Sad to see you going. Do you have
No, I'm good. Thank you,
anything
Russ.
else? Mr. Johnson, anything else?
No, nothing else, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for coming, appreciate you coming.
Ladies,
This will be
gentlemen.
happening soon, you'll get a notification one way or another, and away we go. Do you have
Perfect.
anything to add, Mr. Ruda?
No, no.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you
Safe
so
drive
much.
home.
If I don't hear from you before Thanksgiving, you got, folks have a great Thanksgiving, and your family.
You too.
Oh, you as well.
Thank you. Okay, take care now.
You too, sir.
Bye, Russ.
Thank you. Certainly.
Dan?
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Good.
And are you?
Good evening, how are we?
Good, good.
Good, good, good. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna do a little roundtable, a couple of questions,
Okay.
and, we ready to start? We're ready to start. I get to go first. So if you were to get the job as the superintendent, tell us what the first 30 days look like. What do you do in the first 30 days on the job?
On the job, well, right now we gotta finish getting everything ready for the winter season. We still have to get sand and salt. That's like a priority. We're in the process of trying to get another loader right now through chapter money, so that's another priority right there. And getting everybody used to me being the superintendent and trying to figure out who's going to be the foreman or whatever on the highway, so everybody will know the chain of command and how everything will run smoothly.
Okay. Any follow-ups on that? No. Mr. Sullivan?
Dan, thanks for coming in for a second interview. Obviously, you're an internal candidate. You gave us a resume before. Most of us, all of us know you, know your work. How would you continue, I guess the only way I can phrase it, like to fit your skill set and what you've accomplished in the highway department up to this point, including your time as the interim foreman, and you've been filling in a lot for Vinnie, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So how would your skill set translate into the permanent job?
Well, I have a lot of little skills on like a lot of different things. So my skills, they would, benefit on like when we're doing like the winter operations. I know all the little quirks to get everything, what we need to put materials down, when we need to get out there to sand, when we need to get out there to plow, how many guys we need. So it can make everything kind of run smoothly come winter time, and then summertime, I know the full paving operation, the full construction, like redoing of roads, everything. I know exactly who can do what jobs and how, and to benefit the town by getting everything done without wasting any money and time.
Okay. Again, you're the internal candidate, so you know how it works. You know that you don't have full-time administrative help. We're trying
Correct.
to work on that with Mr. Ruda with his positions we're creating. How have you handled, and how would you continue to handle and/or improve on the technical aspect of it, like the day-to-day reporting, payroll, grant applications, et cetera? Or, we get calls sometimes, like we're in there today signing a highway. How would your skills and knowledge translate off the road into the office.
Into the office? Okay. Yeah, the superintendent, it does need like a secretary, because a lot of times you get called off for something. You get a call because you got to go look at a tree. You got to go look at if there's damage to something. If they say the foreman's out doing something, you can't have him going to look at this if he's doing a crucial job or something like that. So you kind of need somebody that's in there doing some of the paperwork for you, because it can be tough sometimes when you have to actually do some of it, and you need to be out looking at something, because you got to sign, you got to do driveway permits, you got to go look at the driveways and all that stuff. So there is a lot of ins and outs of that job. You're not always capable of being in the office, and I've seen how it can easily fall behind a little bit because you don't have the time to do it, because you have to go do something else that's more important at that moment.
All right, then one more, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
This is, I didn't ask this to the other two candidates, so people at home, I apologize, but this is specific to Stan. Like you just articulated, you understand the ins and outs, the town, the little quirks that other people would have to learn. Are you comfortable, if you were selected, are you comfortable knowing some weeks it's going to be 50 hours, 55 hours, some weeks it'll be to 40? You know how it goes. The superintendent has a plow route. If you guys are plowing, you're in, and it's part, we changed the snow and ice removal account a couple of years ago for the superintendent. Are you comfortable knowing that some weeks it could be more?
Yes.
And some of it may not be weather related, like you just said, could be paperwork that falls behind. You might, I'll make it up. I have to go in for a couple hours on a
Yeah,
Saturday.
you have to catch something up. That's
You
that's
understand.
understandable.
And you're okay with that?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Mr. Marcy?
Thanks. Hey, Stan.
It's going.
So, good. Couple things. One, we may have touched on this a little bit last time, but I want to drill down a little deeper. Like, talk about your comfort with the non-outside stuff, the administrative duties, budgeting, things like that. How would you go about that, and is that something you are wanting to learn and embrace and be really good at?
I've always wanted to learn it. So Vinny, because Vinny knew he was going to be out, so he started to show me all these little things about what we need to keep this place running, and I was learning how all the little things about it, how much money you need, and be careful on how much you spend, and you got to kind of manage it, because it's got to last you throughout the season. But now, okay, if you get a major problem and you don't have enough money to cover it, you have to go and try to see it, without doing it. You go, like, put in an article for something to be fixed, or like you need tires, you put in for an article in the town meeting to see if you can get money for like new tires, because like the loader, if it needs tires, it's going to be big dollars. It's not something that's set in the budget for that kind of stuff.
Right, actually, so let's go there. I did ask that. How would you advocate for those tires, knowing that we have other things that might show up on the warrant from other departments or for other priorities?
Okay, because like you look at the loaders, both loaders right now run with snow tires for the winter. Snow tires don't require using chains, but if they're getting worn out, you have to replace them. They're probably going to be about $6,000 a tire, but you need them, because how are you gonna run that loader without those chains and everything on there? You can't run that loader, and then that's a valuable asset right there. That piece of equipment. It's like one of the most valuable ones we have.
Oh, good. And, Mr. Chairman, one more. So
Certainly.
the other questions I was asking around conflict, right? So you'll be the superintendent, new role. Again, we touched on it last time, but how are you going to handle a situation where, I've always wanted to try something different when we do X? How are you going to get the guys to do that when this is the way it's always been done?
The guys always know there is room for change. It's just because we've done it always the same way every time. There's always guys, but I've been the foreman now for 2 years, and the guys always say, well, why don't we try it this way? Well, a lot of times I say, well, we did try it that way, and it didn't work, but yeah, maybe if we tweak it a little bit, maybe we can make it work, and it'll be a lot, if it's easier done, let's do it.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it.
Right, maybe one more. What do you think the hardest part of this job will be for you? Be honest.
Let me think of that one. Okay, it's probably gonna be, the hardest part of it would be like, figuring out what we wanna use the chapter money that we get for. What do we need the most? Do we need to do more road work? Okay, do we need to buy a piece of equipment that the town can't afford, but you present it and show that we do need it and we can use some of the monies for that? Another thing, like, okay, are we short money? Do we have to put into where we can use wages as part of the chapter money? I mean, that's gonna be the toughest thing to balance. You gotta find out exactly what you're gonna need for each season. I mean, not every year is gonna be the same, but
Right.
you're gonna find years where you're gonna have to balance it differently.
Okay, no, I appreciate your honesty on that one. Just like I said, if you're selected, that helps us and Jonathan know like what kind of help you'd need. Again, we're not, here's the keys, Stan, and go figure it out.
Just like this year, we're trying to use some of the chapter money to buy a brand-new loader that we need. Because they're both our loaders right now are aging. We got a 2003 and a 2006.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, you're up.
Hi, Stan.
How's it going?
So, good. So, over the years, you've worked for different people with different leadership styles. What are some of the behaviors you've seen that you would take to heart, and why those styles?
Some guys are stubborn. It's their way and their way only. You gotta kinda take it, listen to what they have to say, and kind of balance it out. You can't just be one way and one way only. You gotta have a balance to it. That's the way I look at it.
Anything else, Mr. Johnson?
How would you define the difference between a manager and a leader?
A leader, he gets the guys to do anything that needs to be done, and a manager to me is a guy that all he does is the paperwork side of it and keeps the money going. I think the leader is probably more important than just the manager.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a follow-up on that?
Certainly, Mr. Sullivan.
So Stan, again, you've worked there for a lot of years, and as Mr. Johnson said, you had a lot of different supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
And you're Indian working your way up to chief. If you felt it necessary, for example, to jump on the paver and knowing it's a union job, but you had to get it done because you're missing a guy or things weren't, would you hesitate? Would you just get in there and do it and say, guys, I'm just jumping in to help you because I've done it for 25 years. We got to get it done. Or how would you handle
I would.
being like a leader there?
They would know. I would say, we have the job to get done. I'm a little better on this piece of equipment. I'm going to jump on it. We'll get it done. It's not going to stop anybody from anything. They get paid the same regardless. And I'll get the job done. We'll get it done in a timely manner without having a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a follow-up for you, Stan, to my first question, where I asked you, what do your first 30 days look like?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to fast forward ahead to the 1-year mark. You've been in the position for a year.
Okay.
Define success at a year. What do you want to have done in a year? What will have been done? What changes? What have you kept? What's success at a year in your mind? Good one, huh?
It is a very good one.
Thank you.
Okay. getting, I would say, learning little tricks on how to make this whole year better would be to, let's say my goal would be in that 1 year is having a highly maintained highway department, possibly having more help if the town can afford it. Making sure like the recycling center is great, working great. Buildings and grounds, you get the guys working great, keeping this town hall running great. Having like a stress-free year for the town without any major problems. You're gonna still have problems, but nothing to where it costs the town any money, any way you look at it. The guys are all happy. Possibly have some good grants for the town, researching for some really good grants, and hopefully the town can get the grants it needs to get more road work done, which we greatly need, because there isn't enough money to do some of the projects that we wish we could, especially the drainage system, with the stormwater management. But my goal for 1 year would be to just accomplish all the little tasks that need to be done and make the highway run smoothly.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone have anything else? Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Marcy, Mr. Johnson?
Good answers. Jane? Jonathan, anything? Oh, sorry.
Do you have any questions for us, Stan?
Let me think of this one. Okay, if I did get the superintendent's position, what would you guys do for like a foreman? Would you be outsourcing, going within?
I don't think we've gotten that far yet.
Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah, it's just a question. Just wanted to see where that would stand, just in case.
Well, view of the superintendent.
Seeing how it's coming on to the winter season, and you always need that number 2 guy.
I haven't even bought my sides for Thanksgiving yet.
I know a lot of
I don't
people
know.
haven't. Like this little bit of snow we just had kind of woke everybody up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that could be a good thing.
Yes. Let's just hope it's not science to come, though.
Well, who knows?
Mr. Chairman, I think what we discussed originally was that the superintendent was going to contribute to that decision about
That's
the
what I
next
was about
foreman.
to say.
So we certainly know that has to be done sooner rather than later. It's not lost on us. It's
Yeah,
just,
because if that comes around, it's like boom, all of a sudden
yeah.
you have no backup,
I think that's how we left it, though, isn't it? Up to the superintendent.
Yeah, I just didn't want to overstep. I didn't know. Nothing had been put pen to paper as far as that, so I just,
No.
oh, call me silly. I want to get the horse before we buy the carriage.
Yeah, I didn't want to put you on the spot or anything. It was just something that,
Oh.
just in case,
No.
This light can't get any brighter. You're fine.
Like Mr. Ruda said, too, we've always given the superintendent, since I've been here, well, it's been Danny and Vinnie, but a lot of latitude as a participatory manager.
That's
You know,
right.
we don't, I speak for myself and all 4 of us, I don't think any of us have ever been an individual dictator. We've always consensus things.
No.
Nice.
And if you were the
The applicant, if it's you, would have a lot, we'd have a lot of input towards how that would go.
Certainly.
right, Mr. Chair, I think if we had placed our trust in you, then we would, hope that you would pick the right person. We'd have input, but ultimately, I would say most likely be your decision at the end of the day.
You wouldn't be here if we didn't trust you at least this far.
Right.
right.
Yeah. No,
Understandable, 100%.
you know that though, right?
Yes,
You-
yes.
You're here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And I thank you for the this opportunity.
Any other questions?
No, no, we're good.
Last, going once, going twice. Mr. Johnson, nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, so that's it. You'll know soon. We're
Okay.
going to, I mean, you know, we're not going to drag this out to the new year.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get right on this. So thank you for coming by. Drive safe.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Yes.
Thanks, Dan.
Have a
Bye,
good night.
Stan.
You too.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Marcy.
I move that we convene into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, not to reconvene in public.
Motion? Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
John Marcy, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Carrie Sigenovich, aye, unanimous.
And we'll call
Unanimous.
Mr. Johnson on his cell phone in a few minutes.
Thank you very much,
Call
everyone.
yourself.
We'll see you at the next
Thank
meeting.
you, everybody. Good
Pretty
night.
far out.
So-